Rain fell like bullets, not soft or gentle, but sharp, each drop slicing through the thick air of the jungle like a knife. The alien soldiers, 20 of them, lumbered through the undergrowth with armor too loud for the terrain and weapons too bright for the shadows. Their leader, Commander Vale Soon, tilted his eye stalks toward the canopy and hissed. "This planet is unworthy of conquest," he muttered. A junior officer beside him laughed, mandibles clicking. "We're here to flush out a single human, are we not? One primitive with a dead platoon." Vale Sun sneered. "A sergeant, no less. Not even officer caste. This is a waste of time." Behind them, one of the forward scouts vanished into the foliage with a choked scream. The column stopped. Weapons rose. Nothing but rain. Nothing but green. Another soldier, one of the brutes with the plasma repeater, turned in a slow circle, nervously scanning the trees. He blinked. A figure stood there for half a second, unmoving, just beyond the veil of vines. Gone again. The brute opened fire wildly, searing foliage into ash. The heat lit the rain in steam bursts. "Cease fire," Vale Sun bellowed. The squad fell silent. The only sound was the soft patter of rain and the hiss of evaporating water. Then something landed in the mud with a soft clink. Dog tags. 15 of them, looped in a neat bundle, the chains woven together like a trophy. Vale Sun picked them up, the metal warm despite the cold rain. Numbers were scratched into the tags. He turned one over. Each had a name. Each name was human. Each human, long dead. His lower mandible twitched. "This isn't a scout." He looked up at the jungle with new eyes. Grimm watched them from 30 feet above, crouched in the crook of a giant twisted tree, motionless. Mud streaked his face, dulling the glint of sweat on his brow. His body was wrapped in scavenged camouflage, shredded and resewn for mobility. He didn't breathe often. When he did, it was slow, shallow. He had been watching them for 3 hours, listening, studying. 24 of them had landed. Now 19. The dogs moved like machines. But machines could be broken. He lowered his gaze to the tags tucked inside his vest, his own count. With gloved fingers, he fished one out, stared at it. The name was still legible despite the grime. Spencer. He remembered Spencer's laugh. Loud, reckless, always a step behind. Got a bullet through the temple because he turned to make a joke mid-firefight. Grimm had caught his body before it hit the dirt. He slipped the tag back. 15 this run. It was a good start. Grimm slid down the tree like a whisper, landed on a soft patch of moss, and melted into the foliage. The hunt wasn't over. The second group was a scouting team, 4 of them moving in formation, just like the handbook said. A spread pattern, cautious and wide. They advanced through the ferns with weapons primed and eyes up. One of them grunted, pausing to check his scanner. It pulsed red for a second. Just once. Then nothing. The leader glanced back. False reading. The one with the scanner frowned. Maybe. These storms. Grimm struck from below. The blade went through the leader's throat, in and out, fast and clean. No sound. He pulled the body down into the brush before the others could turn. By the time they did, Grimm was gone. Then a mine popped, one he'd buried beneath the tree roots. It wasn't an explosive, just a shrapnel thrower. Primitive, loud, but effective. 2 more down. The last screamed and tried to run. Grimm followed silently, not because he had to, but because he needed to see the eyes. The panic, the collapse of certainty. When the last one fell, he didn't speak, just looked up at him, insectal face frozen in terror. Grimm dropped the tag on the chest and whispered for Ramirez. Back at the drop site, Vale Sun slammed a fist into the console. "We underestimated him." A technician stammered. "We believe the intel was accurate." "You believe he was broken," Vale Sun hissed. "He is not broken. He is sharpened. Commander, another voice cut in from the comms. We've just lost another team. No visuals. Just static. Some things. A hiss of feedback. Silence. Vale soon stared at the holomap, watching red icons wink out like dying stars. Send a message to orbit. Reinforcements. I want an airstrike on this entire sector. But the jungle, burn it all. Behind him, a silent figure watched from the tree line. Grimm didn't move. Not yet. He just counted. Night fell fast on Dima 9. The canopy choked out the stars. The alien camp flickered with harsh artificial light, desperate to keep shadows at bay. Inside one of the tents, a young lieutenant was being stitched up, survivor of the last patrol. His armor was shredded. His face, pale blue, trembled. He doesn't talk, the medic whispered. Just stares. Vale Sun entered, looming. The survivor looked up, eyes wide, lips quivering. He's not a man, the soldier whispered. He was there before we landed. The jungle knows him, follows him, protects him. He has no rank, no command structure. A feral soldier, Vale Sun growled. What could he possibly be? The soldier looked down at something clutched in his claw. A human dog tag. Burned into it was one word. Grimm. Grimm stared at the firelight from the edge of the camp. 27 this time. He'd push harder than he usually liked. The traps had thinned them, but more would come soon. He could feel it in the wind. He crouched beside a fallen log and began cleaning his knife. The blade was old, scarred with notches. He didn't count kills with marks. He counted names. He pulled the bundle of tags from his vest and added 4 more. The metal clicked gently in his palm, a grim lullaby. His eyes scanned the camp. They'd set up floodlights. Machines. Noise. They were afraid now. Good. He liked it when they were afraid, because fear made them sloppy. But he wasn't here for sport. Not for revenge, even. This was something older. He looked up at the sky. Storm clouds building in the atmosphere. Thunder snarling through the trees. Another day. Another hunt. He whispered names. Spencer. Ramirez. Cole. Finn Hartman. Yates. Jennings. Each name a breath. Each name a promise. He vanished back into the jungle without a sound. Behind him, the rain began to fall again. Sharp, heavy, relentless. The kind of rain that washes blood into the roots. The kind that erases tracks and buries memories. The kind that welcomed him home. And in the darkness, deep in the trees, a low whisper passed from branch to branch, as though the jungle itself was speaking. He's still out there, and he's counting. The next morning brought fog thick as concrete, draped low over the jungle like a burial shroud. It muffled sound, smothered vision, and pressed against every sense with suffocating weight. Inside the alien camp, tension roiled just beneath the surface. Soldiers moved in tight formations now, eyes darting, fingers trembling on triggers. Jokes had stopped. Even whispers seemed too loud. Commander Vale soon stood at the command tent's threshold, studying the pale outlines of trees barely visible beyond the lights. A fresh squad had landed during the night. 18 elite Dreadclaws from orbit. Trained in urban pacification, jungle warfare, zero-grav insertions. The best his kind had to offer. He hated needing them. He turned as their leader approached. A towering figure, bulkier than most, with armor dyed black and eyes that flickered crimson. Unit 17 Delta reporting. Sir, the alien rumbled. Authorization confirmed. Target, human combatant, designation Grimm. Vale Sun nodded. You are to bring me his body, or at least his head. Confirmed kill. We burn the rest after. The Dreadclaw paused. We request open engagement parameters. No hostages. No prisoners. A beat passed. Then Vale Sun bared his teeth. Granted, Grimm stood in the river. It was shallow, barely above his knees, but the current was fast and cold. He moved against it, slow and methodical, feet sliding over slick stones. There were no boots now, just wrapped cloth and stripped soles. Silence was more important than comfort. He'd heard them land during the night. The new squad. The air had changed. The way the jungle moved had changed. These weren't amateurs. He could feel it in the way the birds stayed away and how the insects had gone still. The ecosystem knew, but Grimm wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Fear had been burned out of him months ago when the last member of his team died in his arms, whispering the name of a daughter back home. He stopped beneath a cluster of vines and peeled one aside. A handmade snare was nestled at the riverbank, thin fiber line soaked in resin, nearly invisible. Simple, efficient, lethal. He adjusted the tension, checked the angle, then moved on. Every step he took was part of a pattern. Every tree he passed had a purpose. He wasn't fighting them in the jungle. He was the jungle. The dreadclaws moved with precision, forming a long, staggered line through the undergrowth. No chatter, no wasted motion. They checked above and below. They marked traps, disarmed some, triggered others to see what he'd do. He didn't react. Not yet. One soldier knelt near a fallen log and tapped a wrist scanner. A faint signal pulsed, heat residue, recent. He raised his hand to signal the squad. A whisper cut the air. A cord yanked tight. The soldier's body vanished into the canopy, limbs jerking, throat constricted by braided wire. His rifle fired once on reflex, the bolt sparking against a tree. By the time the others looked up, he was gone. No blood, just a spinning helmet, hanging from a noose. They opened fire wildly. Trees exploded, bark shredded, vines burned. Then silence again. The dreadclaws tightened their formation. High above, Grimm adjusted the mirror shard lodged in the canopy. One glint had triggered them. One sliver of reflected heat. That's all it took. He didn't need bullets to kill, just their panic. He dropped from the trees on a soft ground and moved east. There was a ravine there, steep, wet, unstable. He'd tunneled under the edge days ago, reinforcing sections with roots and bones. He could collapse it if they chased him. A natural trap. He paused at the edge and pulled a new tag from a pouch. It still had blood on it. He whispered Thompson, slipped it into the bundle. Thunder rolled across the sky again. A storm was coming. That was good. Rain made it harder for the scanners, harder for the flyers to keep eyes on him. He disappeared into the shadows. Back at the camp, Vale soon stared at the flickering map display. 8 red icons gone. Half the dreadclaws. No visual feeds. No comms. He felt something tightening in his gut, a sensation his kind didn't often feel. Unease. He stormed toward the communications rig, barking at the techs. Track his movements. Estimate a pattern. A junior analyst flinched. There is no pattern, sir. We've mapped all known incidents. No discernible direction or repetition. He appears everywhere. Vale Sun slammed a fist into the console, cracking the screen. That's impossible. But the words rang hollow. Across the map, red icons blinked out one by one. The last 3 dreadclaws found the ravine just before dusk. Their HUDs flickered from atmospheric interference. Visibility was low. The storm was gathering fast, gusts of wind moaning through the trees like ghosts. They spotted movement at the far end. A silhouette crouched low, then bolting. They opened fire, plasma bolts scorching the dark. One charged ahead. Too late, he saw the tripwire. The ravine's edge gave way with a rumble. He vanished into the chasm with a scream, swallowed by mud and broken stone. The second paused, scanning the ground frantically. A noise behind him, too soft to register as a threat, was the last thing he heard before Grimm's blade sank into his spine, paralyzing him. Grimm leaned close. "To left," he whispered. Then he was gone again. The last Dreadclaw fled. He wasn't supposed to run. His training forbade it. But training didn't prepare him for this. The jungle closed in on all sides. Every shadow was a threat. Every vine a noose. He activated his distress beacon, calling for immediate evac. But nothing came. No signal. No orbit response. He stumbled into the clearing, panting, armor smeared with mud and fear. And there, waiting, was Grimm. Just standing. No gun. Just a blade and a bundle of tags hanging from one hand. The Dreadclaw raised his weapon, too slow. Grimm threw the tags. They struck his helmet, clinking against the visor. The alien blinked. Then the blade followed. By nightfall, the jungle was quiet again. Smoke curled upward from the ravine. Crows circled overhead. Grimm sat beside a tree, unwrapping a ration bar he'd stolen from a corpse 3 days ago. It tasted like ash and metal. He ate anyway. The bundle of tags rested beside him. He laid them out, touching each one. 19 more. He lost count, but he remembered every name. His radio crackled. He hadn't used it in weeks. Months maybe. A voice, distorted, came through. Any human personnel, respond. This is Echo Command. We received distress beacons and scrambled patrols. Are you receiving? Grimm stared at the device, the voice alien in its hopefulness. He waited. Then he pressed the button. This is Sergeant Elias Grimm, he said. His voice was rough and used. Grid, Delta 12. Jungle Sector. Hostiles neutralized. A pause. Sergeant Grimm, please confirm. You're alone. He looked around at the silent trees. The graves they become. Yeah, he said quietly. Always was. He let go of the button. Above him, the storm finally broke, rain slicing the sky wide open. He closed his eyes and let it wash over him. Cleansing. Cold. Alive. The war wasn't over. More would come. But for now, he had time, and a list still left unfinished. The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days. It pounded the jungle in waves, turning trails into rivers, burrows into graves, washing away blood and footprints alike. For most, it was a misery. For Elias Grimm, it was camouflage. He moved beneath the canopy like a shadow. Mud slicked his body. Leech bites dotted his neck. Hunger gnawed at him constantly, but he'd grown used to it. Just another sensation to ignore. His skin was cracked, burned in places where plasma had passed too close, but still he moved. There was no choice. The enemy had changed. He'd heard the orbital drop the night before. No massive ship this time, no dramatic entry. This one came quiet, precise. A small pod, barely larger than a crate. It had landed just beyond the old comms tower ruins. Grimm had marked the coordinates on instinct. Something about the silence after its arrival was wrong. He didn't know what was in it. Not yet, but he knew enough to be afraid. The jungle felt it too. Birds were gone again. The frogs had stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to slither rather than blow. It was an old instinct, animal primal. Something was hunting. Grimm pulled himself up the trunk of a massive ceiba tree, climbing without rope or harness. The branches creaked under his weight. From the top, he scanned the distant horizon. There, movement, barely visible through sheets of rain. Something sleek moved through the trees, impossibly fast, impossibly fluid. Not a squad, not even a soldier. A shape, low to the ground. Elongated limbs. Unnatural gait. He narrowed his eyes. Not a trooper. A tracker. The enemy had stopped sending men. They were sending things now. Commander Valsun stood beside the burning wreckage of what had once been an uplink relay. The fire cast flickering shadows across his face, making the purple ridges of his skin seem skeletal. A technician knelt nearby, trembling. He took the data core, the tech muttered. Clean cut. No trace. Knew exactly where it was. Vale Sun's jaw flexed. He's learning. Another officer approached from the darkness. Commander, the Predator unit has been deployed. Silent protocol active. We are to maintain zero interference. Vale Sun turned sharply. You mean we've been benched? The officer didn't respond. Of course not. The Predator unit answered to high command. Biogenetic warfare, experimental cognition, adaptive predation. Designed to infiltrate, stalk, eliminate. No chain of command once it was dropped. He hated it. Hated what it meant. They'd lost control of this war. Grimm had circled the landing site twice now. No footprints. No heat residue. Whatever had come down was smart. Smarter than the soldiers. Smarter than the Dreadclaws. It didn't leave a trail. But something wasn't right. He crouched beneath a tangle of vines and examined a bent stalk of grass. Flattened recently. Weightless almost. Then another, a few meters further. Not broken, just shifted. Something was moving without disturbing the world around it. Grimm slowly drew the crude knife he'd carved from a fallen alien blade. Still sharp, still humming faintly with energy. He felt it buzz through his fingers like a pulse. The thing that had landed wasn't a soldier. It wasn't even a hunter in the traditional sense. It was bait. He slid backward into the foliage, disappeared into the shadows. He wouldn't confront it here. Not yet. First, he had to understand it. He didn't have to wait long. Night fell fast. The sky bled into black. Thunder rolled, and the jungle trembled. And it was there. Not approaching. Not stalking. Waiting. Grimm saw it standing at the edge of the river. Pale skin, almost translucent, clung to a frame that was wrong in all the ways a human brain resists understanding. It had no mouth, no nose, just a smooth stretch of flesh where a face should be, punctuated by a single slitted eye that blinked sideways and vertically in slow, deliberate intervals. It was looking at him, not where he was, but where he would be, predictive. He froze. The creature stepped forward, and its body shimmered. Camouflage peeled away like dust. It had mimicked a tree, then a shadow, then nothing at all. That it chose now to reveal itself was intentional. It wanted him to see. Grimm reached for his knife, but didn't move. The Predator cocked its head. Then it whispered, not with sound, not with voice, but Grimm heard it. In his mind. You are different. He staggered back, heartbeat spiking. It took another step. You are not efficient. You are not logical. You're not advanced. Grimm steadied himself. But I'm still alive, he muttered. The creature blinked. That is why I study you. Then it moved. Fast. Too fast. Grimm dove sideways as claws scythed through the space where he'd stood. His shoulder clipped a root, spun him sideways. He rolled, slammed into a tree, came up with the knife in hand. It was gone. No footfalls. No scent. Grimm slowed his breathing. Let his other senses work. The blade in his hand vibrated, pulsed once. He pivoted and slashed. Sparks flew as steel met claw. The creature shrieked, not in sound, but inside his skull, like static tearing through memory. Grimm screamed in return, staggering back. It came again, this time from above. He ducked under the strike, shoved the knife upward, caught something soft. Warm fluid splashed his arm. The Predator flinched. Grimm used the moment to run. He ran blindly, not caring where, just away. Branches tore his arms, mud slicked his feet. The jungle flashed past in blurred streaks. He burst into a clearing and skidded to a stop. There, arranged in the dirt, were bones. Not human. Alien. Dreadclaw. Dozens. A pile of discarded armor nearby. The Predator had killed them. Not for defense. Not for orders. For fun. Grimm stared at the trophies. Each skull was carved. Marked. Ritualized. This wasn't just a weapon. It was an artist. He turned back toward the trees and found it waiting. Its eye gleamed. You're not prey. You're not predator. Grimm, raised a knife. Then what am I? The voice inside his head whispered like silk tearing. You are an anomaly. And then the creature lunged again. This time, Grimm didn't run. Hours later, the jungle slept again. Rain fell softer now, more like a lullaby than a scream. Grimm knelt by the river, gasping, bloodied. The predator's blade lodged in his side. It had slashed deep, nearly gutted him. But it was dead. Its head sat beside him, cleaved in two. The eye still twitched occasionally, even in death. He stared at it. Anomaly, huh? He muttered. He didn't feel victorious. He felt hollow. Killing it wasn't the end. It was proof. The aliens were adapting, and now they'd try again. But he would too, because Elias Grimm wasn't done. Not while he could still move. Not while there were names on the tags in his pouch. Not while his heart still beat in this jungle graveyard. He stood slowly, wincing, and limped toward the next trail. They'd keep coming. He'd be ready. The flames danced in the darkness, flickering orange against the black walls of the downed alien transport. Elias Grimm stood over the gutted corpse of the predator, breathing shallow, blood soaking through the field dressing on his ribs. He had cauterized the wound with a plasma coil and sheer will. It wasn't healing, but didn't need to. Not yet. He was running out of time, and they were running out of patience. High above the jungle, the clouds split again. A new drop pod screamed through the atmosphere, carving a line of fire into the sky. It didn't crash. It landed deliberately, with precision and arrogance, just beyond the ruins of the old relay tower. That made 5 landings in 2 weeks. No search teams, no extraction, just units deployed to kill a single man. Grimm counted every one of them. They hadn't sent infantry anymore. No, that ended with the Dreadclaws. They hadn't sent scientists, engineers, or diplomats. That ended when Grimm slit the throat of the envoy who tried to study him like an insect. Now, they sent their worst, their wildest. Things birthed in laboratories, stitched together with biology and code, apex predators given intelligence and instinct. And still they died here. This jungle had become his cathedral. But he was dying too. His leg dragged now, stiff where the nerve had been burned. His side ached constantly, breath shallow and wet. There was an edge to every movement, a scream just beneath the surface that he swallowed every hour. Pain, fatigue, hallucination, they were all constants. But so was purpose. He limped up the slope toward the old observation tower, half collapsed, bones from a dozen battles littering the undergrowth. From this perch, he could see the drop pod in the distance. This one hadn't deployed immediately. That meant they were changing tactics again, learning, or baiting. Either way, it didn't matter. He had a plan, a brutal one. Grimm dropped to his knees before the pile of scavenged gear. Energy packs, hacked fusion cells, broken Dreadclaw armor, a half-dead drone repurposed with scavenged parts. He wasn't a technician, but he didn't need to be. He was something more dangerous. Desperate. He wired the fusion cores to detonate on frequency trigger, lined the bones with shrapnel, turned the drone's emitter into a false signal beacon, set the trap in the shape of a grave. Let them come. He would show them what it meant to hunt something that refused to die. In orbit above the planet, Commander Veilsun stood silent on the bridge of the command vessel, gazing down at the roiling storm system shrouding the jungle moon. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Behind him, the Chancellor of Exobiological Warfare paced in tight, frustrated circles. We've sent 9 units, she snapped, all with advanced threat assessment, neural evolution models, combat prediction, and they're all dead. Vaporized, gutted, dismembered. Veilsun didn't turn. You should have killed him when you had the chance, she snarled. We didn't know what he was, Veil said flatly. No, she corrected. We didn't listen to what he was. The Chancellor slapped a hollow screen. A flickering projection appeared. Grimm, bloodied, limping, dragging the severed head of the last Predator unit behind him like a trophy. "He's sending us messages now," she whispered. "He's taunting us." Veilsun finally turned. "He's dying." "Yes," she said. "And before he does, he wants us to understand why we should fear humans." Veil's gaze dropped. They already did. The storm came like judgment. Grimm crouched in the ruins, knife at his side, plasma rifle slung across one shoulder, the detonator clutched in one trembling hand. Every bone in his body screamed at him to rest. But rest meant death, and he had one more lesson to teach. The pod door hissed open. Not a creature this time. Not a hunter. A woman. She stepped into the storm, hair slicked back, unarmed, clothed in soft fabric instead of armor. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. No weapons. Diplomatic corps. He almost laughed, but he didn't lower the weapon. She raised her hands. "You've won," she called over the thunder. "The council acknowledges your claim." "Bullshit," Grimm growled. She took another step. "We offer ceasefire." Grimm's finger hovered over the detonator. "If you wanted a ceasefire," he said slowly, "you wouldn't have dropped monsters on my head for 3 weeks." "They weren't monsters," she said. "They were mirrors. You taught us fear. We answered in kind." He blinked, and something in him cracked. "You came to our colony," he said, voice low. "You slaughtered civilians, burned towns, laughed at our tech, called us unfit. So we taught you what unfit meant." She looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded. "You did," she said. "We mocked your primitive weapons until your heavy machine gun shredded our elite. We mocked your species until your mothers buried their dead and kept fighting. We laughed at your pain until we realized you don't stop." The detonator clicked. She flinched, but nothing exploded. Grimm dropped the dead trigger to the mud. "I've got nothing left," he said. The woman took a careful step forward. "We know," she said gently. "That's why I'm here. Not to kill, to witness." He stared at her. Rain carved tracks down his face. "You want to witness?" he said hoarsely. "Then listen." And he told her about the ambush that killed his team, about the green recruit who died whispering his mother's name, about the hours he spent hiding in a corpse pit, drinking rainwater from a broken helmet, about the way each predator learned a little more, but none learned enough, and about how, in the end, the jungle itself sang for him. She didn't interrupt, didn't record, just listened. And when he finished, she looked away and whispered, "There's a reason your kind is feared across time and space, even before your first contact." "What reason?" "Because you shouldn't win," she said. "But you do. Not because you're stronger, not smarter, not faster, but because you fight like nothing else in the galaxy." He sat back. The storm began to break. Dawn bled over the horizon. And still he breathed. Months later, deep within the archives of the Galactic Council, a new codex was classified under emergency tactical protocols. It contained footage, testimonies, and data harvested from the failed incursion on Jungle Mooney 19. The title of the entry was simple: Humanity, Anomaly Class Threat. Subnote: Do not engage without overwhelming force and prepared sacrifice. Victory is possible. Survival is not guaranteed. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, where warlords once scoffed at human frailty, silence took root. Because now they understood. You could break a machine. You could outsmart an algorithm. But you could never predict a species that refused to die quietly. And in the middle of it all, somewhere in a jungle grown over with time and ruin, the ghost of a man named Elias Grimm was still spoken of in hushed tones. Not as a hero, not as a monster, but as a warning.